When we approach the subject of tithing, the very first thing we must do is take a step back and ask ourselves, where did this practice come from, and why was it instituted in the first place? Too many people today pick up the word tithe from a modern pulpit or a YouTube sermon without understanding that its origin is deeply rooted in the old covenant God made with Israel. This was not a vague, general instruction for every believer in every age. It was a specific command tied to a specific nation, under a specific covenant, with a specific purpose. If we do not grasp that, we will inevitably confuse law with grace and obligation with worship. In the Old Testament, the tithe was a tenth of the produce of the land, grain, wine, oil, and livestock, given to support the tribe of Levi, who had no inheritance of land like the other tribes. God had set apart the Levites to serve in the tabernacle and later in the temple, and in return, they were sustained by the tithes of the people. This was not optional. It was mandated under the law of Moses, as clear as the command to keep the Sabbath or to offer sacrifices. It was part of a larger system of ceremonial, civil, and moral laws that governed Israel as God's covenant nation. We must remember something here. Israel was not a democracy, and they were not merely a religious community. They were a theocracy, a nation ruled by God Himself. The tithe functioned almost like a tax in that society, ensuring that God's chosen servants and His worship system could operate continuously. The Levites depended on it. The temple rituals depended on it. Without the tithe, the very structure God had established for Israel's worship would collapse. And here is where many Christians make a critical mistake. They take that Old Testament command, lift it straight out of its historical and covenantal context, and then lay it as a requirement on the backs of believers today, as though nothing changed at the cross. But Scripture is clear, something did change. The coming of Christ brought the fulfillment of the law, the end of the Levitical priesthood, and the inauguration of a new covenant written not on tablets of stone, but on the hearts of His people. This is why it's so important to understand that the tithe was never designed as a timeless, universal